That's cinema, baby.
No, Mr. Wilson. I don't have to take that kind of talk from anyone.
That's right, you don't. How about going outside and trying to kick me around?
I'm not supposed to fight with the guests, Mr. Wilson.
I'm not a guest tonight, you yellow bastard. I happen to be an intruder.
Hello, and welcome to The Good, the Pod, and the Ugly, a film podcast where we pair movies to gather a better understanding of the filmographies of notable directors or actors, typically one artist or person per season, often with guests. I'm your co-host, Ken.
Do it, Ryan.
And I'm your co-host, Ryan.
And I'm your third co-host, Thomas.
You may know us from our other podcast, A Bit Much in It, where we follow our Good, the Pod, and the Ugly host, Thomas, Ryan, and myself, on a worldwide reality competition where we take pitches for bits to replace our old, tired, you may know us from our other podcast bit. Recent classic buzzworthy episodes include a trip to Norway, where death metal band Entrails Coffin, Entrails Coffin, Entrails Coffin, Coffin Entrails pitched us on a weekly bit about dehumanization and agricultural devastation in the industrial age, which is pretty good, but then they also wanted a weekly infant sacrifice. We took a trip to the deep antebellum South, where we were silently led to a sweltering town square by an entire population where they all spoke in unison and pitched us on a weekly bit about a lottery that picks out biscuit recipes. Andy Reid, head coach of Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chief, pitched us on a bit from his Kansas City home, sitting in a hot tub full of chili, called Have Patrick Do What He Wants, where Patrick Mahomes can say whatever he wants for 5 minutes, no matter how incendiary or repulsive, and the refs at the FCC will never call a penalty. I'm not bitter about the Super Bowl, seriously. We traveled to southwestern Ohio for Mrs. Franklin's second grade class, where they all asked for funny dances from us on their phones, along with that one kid, Gabe, who said we should eat poop before every episode. We won't do that, and I meant what I said about your mother, you little crybaby. Next week, we host David Koepp, Quentin Tarantino, and Ridley Scott to pitch us something called 50 Ways to Kill a Co-Host. Tune into that and welcome listeners of it to The Good, the Pod, and the Ugly. We hope you enjoyed the epic journey to replace this bit and hope you can now hear why.
But
Good job.
here on this podcast, we do a deep dive on the creatives' paired films and their backgrounds, adding our own insights. Our first 3 seasons covered Eastwood, but this season, was it season 12?
Yeah.
Yeah, what are we doing, Ken?
We are at the very end, or the very beginning, depending how you want to look at it, or the very middle of Big Daddy Time himself, Sir Christopher Nolan. We are on the last pairing in a temporal pincer movement, and we are doing The Dark Knight paired with Inception, where Christopher Nolan became a name brand.
Yeah. Inception next episode. This episode, The Dark Knight, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I gotta warm up. I'm getting ready, you know.
Oh, no, you should, because in both movies, there are safes. In both movies, someone has fled America to avoid prosecution. In both movies, I think there's somebody breaking into a prison. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure there's a vehicle inside of a vehicle. But I guess we'll have to wait till Inception to kind of talk about that. But this is definitely the first time of this temporal pincer movement that we've done, where we've ended up with 2 films shot by Wally Pfister on IMAX as well. This is going to be the inception of IMAX shooting with Dark Knight. Oh, both have Cillian Murphy and Michael Caine.
Mm-hmm.
Both are like Nolan's nightmare films, I would say. Like, I think he probably is very concerned about losing a wife, or losing a family, and definitely losing control.
Yeah.
Both have billionaires who can buy anything, like opera houses and airlines.
Mm-hmm.
Both have animal actors, as we can hear maybe your dog there in the background, Ken. The chemist has a cat. It's really cute. Both have vehicle chases and vehicle flips. And I think both of these films end with the hero leaving the frame.
Yeah, that's a good call.
You would think that there'd be maybe more, but I guess as we get closer and closer, you don't want to repeat yourself.
Yeah.
I guess as we get closer and closer, you don't really want to repeat yourself.
It's interesting that, and I don't know if it's chance or what, but with both Aronofsky and Nolan, at least, I feel like the last episode that we do is also kind of the inflection point of their career where things really start to change. If I remember, with Aronofsky, we did Black Swan and The Wrestler, and that was like a real turn and upgrade for him. And I feel like this is the same with Nolan, where it's like the highest of the blockbuster Nolan, and then, as you put it, like Inception is the beginning of Nolan the brand.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very clean way of describing it, I think.
Yeah.
What's really weird is that both of these films are the same years of Black Swan and The Wrestler.
No shit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's why.
08 and 10.
Wow.
So for Dark Knight, we also covered Pineapple Express, Hurt Locker, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Mamma Mia, Doubt, Changeling, and Gran Torino, which, if you listen to the Wrestler episode, I've already said.
Amazing. Who would have thunk that we would do 2 directors in a row and they would end on movies made the same year, and we'd follow it up with a cartoon.
A cartoon by the same director who both directors are accused of stealing their ideas from.
Probably without much basis or grounds for the accusation, but sure.
I have yet to watch Paprika, but the one, what was the one we watched for the Aronofsky?
Perfect
Blue.
Perfect Blue. Yeah, I saw very little merit in that argument, but I'm looking forward to Paprika.
Oh, well, The Dark Knight, I mean, so this is the start of Nolan shooting in IMAX. And how, right? I mean, that the whole opening sequence, pretty darn amazing. A little background. So when Goyer and Nolan were working on Batman Begins, as soon as it finished up, Goyer went ahead and put together an idea for a trilogy, did an outline for it. And so at the end of the second film in his proposed trilogy, the Joker would be alive. And in the third film, when he goes to trial, that's when Dent would become Two-Face, as the Joker messes up his face.
Throws acid in his face, much like the comic book.
Versus, having lying perfectly symmetrically in a pool of gasoline or kerosene or whatever it might have been. But
hey, man, we've all been there after a hard night out.
I do remember when that happened on Batman the Animated Series. Two-Face was my favorite character on that one.
Was it from the Joker throwing acid in his face?
I can't. It might have been the Joker. I can't remember who did it. I just remember him transforming in a way very similar to what happens to Jack Nicholson and the Burton Batman to the Joker, and then Two-Face is one of the main villains for the rest of at least what I watched.
And you, and it's also your favorite Tommy Lee Jones performance, I thought.
I do love, I can't remember do you remember what he said to Jim Carrey? I will not tolerate this buffoonery. Have you heard that story?
Nope. Sounds about right.
Yeah, they were shooting one of the scenes. I think the scene in the helicopter at the beginning of the Batman movie, and Jim Carrey was doing his shtick on camera, and then Schumacher called cut, and Carrey kept doing it because he was method at the time. And Tommy Lee Jones started swearing at him and telling him to shut the fuck up, and then it ended when Tommy Lee Jones screamed that "I will not tolerate this buffoonery," and stormed off set. You
said that Jim Carrey was a meth head at the time?
Yes. In the Brando sense.
Wait, Brando was a meth head? We're getting really off topic.
There's a long history.
Emma Stone's pregnant with her 4th child. This shoot
Emma Stone?
I'm sorry. Wow, Emma Thomas.
Excuse me, I think you meant Thomas. Emily. Go on.
Wow.
It's all getting cut out.
The first 5 days they shot in Chicago. at the old post office. They figured out some of the IMAX camera stuff. They're wearing masks like Kubrick's The Killing. Then they go to England. That's where they shoot the interrogation scene. So that's like the second big thing that they shot.
Wow.
Originally, Batman's supposed to kick the Joker in the head when he's leaving. We'll talk about a little bit about why that's important. But they don't do that. They spend 2 months in Chicago. They blow up some fucking buildings. They go to Hong Kong. Bada bing, bada boom. Heath Ledger dies.
And really set one of the more unusual film rollouts, publicity-wise, of this I could ever remember, because there was a pall hanging over the movie before it even opened.
I mean, for the production, it's even wilder. I'm not sure how much of this was just a pivot, but it's even wilder than Inception, where they mailed out those postcards that look like Polaroids, and somebody called the cops because they thought,
oh, Memento.
What did I say? Inception? Fuck.
Yeah.
Man, I'm all over the place today. So yeah, they apparently at Comic-Con gave out like dollar bills that had Jokers on them.
Cool.
Joker's face, that then led to a clue that would lead you to a different place, like an escape room inside of Comic-Con that would eventually put you at a vantage point to watch a plane right in the sky, right? A phone number that then you could call. And you could join, whenever you called it was an automated thing, you could join the Joker's army. They also did a fake news site modeled on the Drudge Report, if you can remember that. Hopefully you don't. Where they peddled fake news about the election, where you could come out in support of Harvey Dent.
Uh-huh.
They also came out with voter registration cards inside of pizza delivery boxes.
Mm-hmm.
That when you... They also had, in addition to that, they also had Batman masks and other things where you could go to a forum on the internet, Citizens for Batman, and they organized, if you were in Chicago and New York, you could go out and see the bat signal in the skyline.
Wow.
So it was like augmented reality before Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
Wow. And what is our mutual experience with this movie? First time you saw it, excitement level before and after in 2008?
I was pretty stoked to see this. I was I think I said during the Prestige episode, I was just a little lukewarm on it the first time watching it, but I enjoyed Batman Begins, and there was a lot of hype around it, and I remember enjoying it a lot in the theater. And only, I don't know, it's often how you end things. For me, like how in a work day or at the end of a movie kind of leaves the rest of the movie, like the taste of the rest of the movie. And so it wasn't, I think when we go to reactions, I wasn't elated by the film, but I enjoyed the hell out of it while watching it.
Ryan?
I was not. A lot of my friends were very excited, and I think we saw it opening night at the IMAX. I was not quite as excited just because I didn't like Batman Begins quite as much as other people I knew. But yeah, it was. I mean, I remember being blown away the first several times I saw it.
And Ken?
Yeah, I saw it the opening Saturday after it opened, with a buddy of mine and his brother. And I remember after the movie, like my buddy and his brother, like, meh, and they had little quibbles, and I was like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? That was like a movie.
Yeah.
That was a full-on movie, man. What are you guys doing?
Were they actuallying? Because that's not how Harvey Dent gets his face melted.
Well, you know how in particularly the social media age, how pedantic people can be about nitpicking of movies. I think Jack has talked about the CinemaSins era of people's reactions. And I mean, there's a little bit of that still now. I mean, I do it. We all do it. But yeah, I mean, after watching that, I've seen a lot of movies, and I was like, fuck that. That's the kind of movie I want to watch in the summertime if it's going to be a superhero movie.
Mm-hmm. Mhm.
Yeah, I was a full on 5-star fan from the get go. And really, I think I recognized at the time just how narratively, and I don't know a better word to say it, narratively assaultive Nolan is about how much plot he packs in and how much he leaves up to you to figure out. In both the movies we're talking about pairing this week, there is an immense amount of plot and character that he packs in, almost like sometimes it feels like too much, and maybe a little too much in the next movie. But it's quite refreshing because it doesn't necessarily hit the same plot point notes that most Hollywood blockbusters do.
Yeah, I guess that's true, especially as it seems like he melded two movies into one, so you wouldn't have to have a sequel. Like he doesn't think in terms so he would have a self-contained film.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll talk about it later, but for me, that's the biggest weakness of the film in hindsight.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, I think I'm going to agree with you when we get there. The greatest weakness for the film, just to my mind, is the Blu-ray DVD special features are fucking stupid. A whole disc dedicated so you can watch an hour-long promo of how cool Batman is and Batman psychology, or Batman and gadgets. Or you can watch. They did all these as part of probably that marketing campaign. They did all these fake news, Gotham City news reports that are just bad production value and really contribute nothing. It's very strange. It's a very strange setup for physical media. But on the main disc, there's something called BD Live, I guess, or maybe it's BR Live. It was some type of technology that Warner Brothers had where they would keep on the server and like behind the scenes footage. But that server's down now.
Yeah.
So I can't watch the Christopher Nolan stuff, which is the whole reason I went to Movie Madness and got the 2-disc Blu-ray when I already had the film. I already had the film, but I went there so I could get a little bit more background, and that's why I don't have any research this week, guys.
Well, when I was watching the start of the Blu-ray, it runs a stupid fucking commercial and whatnot about connecting to the net for bonus features, and I was talking to the screen as one often does.
Shaking
and
your
I was
fist
like,
at the cloud.
there's no fucking way that is still on there. You guys are a bunch of liars. When you put this out there, you knew it wouldn't be forever. Down with Warner Brothers. Because I'm one of those people who just wants to see the world burn, I guess.
Why so serious? Yeah, it's this weird gambit, and I'm gonna quit ranting here in about 10 minutes. You can cut it down to 1.
Okay.
Where I buy physical media so I have something whenever I want to reach out to it in my, the vault that I have underneath my house. And so it's there, so it doesn't just like magically disappear.
Yeah.
And when they don't allow you to own the thing and it magically disappears, that upsets me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, every time you quote unquote buy a movie off of Amazon or Apple, you're not actually physically buying it. You're buying limited rights to it, and once that expires with Apple or Amazon, you won't own it anymore. But if you had a copy of Die Hard instead of my stupid Amazon one I bought for $7.99 4 years ago, I wouldn't have to worry about it.
You can get a good Die Hard Blu-ray for $5.
You know what? I have taken, since we did the Aronofsky and now this one, I've taken every time I go to thrift stores and Goodwills all the time, and I'm always looking at the Blu-ray section because I would rather pay $4 for that and have it forever than rent it from fucking Bezos.
Yeah.
Because nothing I ever want is streaming for something I already pay for. It never works out that way.
Yeah.
I watched when I was editing the Prestige episode for the podcast this week, and I often put on things in the background while I'm editing, just for kind of a distraction. I put on Batman Returns, a Tim Burton movie, his follow-up to his initial Batman movie.
Yes.
I put it on Spanish with English subtitles because why not? Because it's interesting to think of Nolan kind of getting almost a blank check after Batman Begins, the same way they did the same thing with Burton after his Batman with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson. and what both of them did with that blank check. Nolan went fairly Nolan with it, and Burton did the same thing, but he went full Burton with it.
Yeah.
Which means terrible story, terrible characters, terrible writing.
Oh my!
And one of the best movies to play on mute, maybe from that era. But other than Michelle Pfeiffer, and the cinematography, it is a total abortion of a movie.
Oh my goodness!
Are we going to fight now, Ryan?
I don't know what to. I mean, no, it's definitely an acquired taste. But my Joel Schumacher love and heart loves Batman Returns more than. I think that is. I would rather watch that 100 times than watch The Dark Knight again.
Holy moly! Okay.
Holy shit! Okay, well.
But that's man. That's the kind of I like butter in my ass and a lollipop in my mouth.
Before we lose our listener,
relitigating
Heath Ledger did his own makeup once, and they were like, "That's terrible," but we'll kind of use it. And was going to be was a candidate for Batman originally in Batman Begins, but he said, "I don't have a Heath Ledger accent." So I'm going to respect the dead, but just use my own voice. I actually hate comic book movies, like fucking hate them. They just bore me shitless, and they're just dumb.
Was that a quote, or was that just you, Thomas?
Oh no, that's both. I channeled.
that was acting on your part.
I think Batman Begins definitely changed. I guess a lot of people's perception, right? And so that he would take on the role, and he would keep a diary. He'd lock himself in a hotel room and keep a diary of concepts the Joker would find funny, like the words landmines, AIDS, brunch. And I'm with them. I think those are all hilarious words.
If you put them all together, it's one hell of an afternoon.
Yeah.
And you've seen the videos, the Tom Waits and Heath Ledger as the Joker videos. How Heath Ledger went from whatever he discussed with Nolan after the original script and his performance, the part that included, I'm going to kind of do it like Tom Waits, is one of the strangest, best things about his performance.
I think a huge part of this film's success is how seriously Ledger took the role, and I don't know. I think it's set a weird precedent now for comic book villains and the Joker in particular. But just what you were talking about, Thomas, with the makeup and the handheld video stuff that he did, and the level to which he and Nolan seem to really be simpatico on the role of the Joker in the film structure is really amazing. Did he die was the film still in production when he passed?
No, it was after.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I wasn't sure from.
And I'm really interested in, now that we're at the end of our Nolan Void, having watched all of them, his collaborative process with certain actors. Because you see a lot of it here, and the next movie in particular, maybe the most collaboration he's done, like before the movie started with DiCaprio, but then a little bit with Hardy, a lot with Cillian Murphy and Oppenheimer, and then maybe that being a bit of a secret sauce for his movies that work more than maybe the ones where it's all Nolan. I'm thinking like Dunkirk and Tenet, which work for me on different levels. But these movies where he's really invested in collaborative with his actors before a frame is shot, I think I find a little more there, a little more meat on the bones.
I don't know if I agree with that, but I'm going to keep singing the praises of Ledger for another moment.
Please do it.
No, it's an actual acapella. No. So one of the amazing things is that scene, and then maybe we want a summary, so we're just not talking all over the place of the movie, but the scene where the Joker blows up the hospital, right? Wally Fitzer got his dad on set. He was like, "Hey, Dad, come see me shoot a giant movie." And And so they were going to blow up the candy factory that's subbing in for the hospital.
Yeah.
And what we see on screen, because Nolan likes practical stuff, is all practical. And it wasn't intended to not go off in staggered charges like that. It was all supposed to go off. And so Heath Ledger just stayed in character, continued to walk, continued to shoot until and then it finally miraculously exploded the way that they were hoping for seconds earlier.
A beautiful piece of improv.
That's my favorite.
Amazing.
One take is all they had.
Wow.
Yeah, because you can't blow it up again. I don't know. Yeah. They had to wait 7 years until the Lloyd Center is available.
That's my favorite section of the movie, and my favorite piece of Ledger's performance is all the stuff at the hospital.
Yeah, he is amazing when he's sitting down with that Karen from HR wig talking to Dent.
That's so brilliant.
Do we want to do the synopsis? I challenged myself this week.
Oh, to be 1 minute?
No.
Oh,
I'm sorry. All right, so I wrote and drew a graphic novel once upon a time, so I got really used to writing in the comic book format. So I challenged myself to do a recap of The Dark Knight in 9 panels. The classic Watchmen 9-panel grid, and it was really hard because there is a fuck ton of plot in this movie, so I reduced it considerably, and it's a fairly short script, so don't worry. This is The Dark Knight.
It's just a script, though. You didn't do any drawings for this.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm past that stage of my life. Panel 1, Batman atop a building overlooking Gotham with the bat signal in the sky. Caption, since Batman Begins, the Cape Crusader has become a regular sight in Gotham City as its lone protector. Is he enough to save the city? Panel 2, headshots of Lucius Fox, Alfred, Rachel Dawes, Jim Gordon, Harvey Dent. All smiles, each with their first name in a small banner. Caption, however, Batman is not alone. He has amassed a base of friends to help him fight crime. Panel 3, the Joker looking right at us, holding a pencil. Caption, but the criminal element has escalated in Gotham, using Batman's theatricality as a guide. The worst of them is the Joker. Joker, you want to see how I got these scars? Or see a magic trick? Panel 4, various leering, evil headshots of mob players in Gotham City. Caption, after Falcone was put away, asterisk, Gotham's many crime bosses have teamed up with the Joker to eliminate Batman. Maroni, anything to keep our grip on the city. Ha ha. Editor note from the asterisk, see Batman Begins. Panel 5, Joker kneeling over Batman who lay amidst wreckage of his bat cycle. Jim Gordon in a SWAT uniform points a shotgun at Joker. Caption, pretending to be dead, Jim Gordon along with Harvey Dent lay a trap to finally capture the Joker with Batman's help. Gordon, not so fast, clown prince of crime. Joker, oh well, lock me up, Lieutenant, or should I say, Commissioner? I killed the last one, you know. Panel 6, horizontal split panel. Rachel getting blown up. Harvey Dent being held by Batman as half his face is on fire. Caption, the Joker escapes, but has evil plans for 2 of Batman's best friends, Rachel and Harvey. Dent, no, Batman, you should have saved Rachel. Half my face is on fire. Panel 7, Dent now has Two-Face flipping a coin talking to the Joker, who is handing him photos. Joker, now that you are a freak like me, we're going to show Gotham can ruin even the purest of hearts. You! Here are the cops I hired to kidnap you and Rachel. Two-Face, and I will use my now scarred lucky coin to see if they live or die in a game of deadly chance. Joker, chaos to Gotham, I'll drink to that. Both of them, ha 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 ha. Panel 8, Batman in silhouette walking away from Gordon, his son, and the dead body of Harvey Dent. Caption, Batman defeats the Joker and saves the Gordon family, with Dent accidentally plummeting to his death. To save Dent's reputation, Batman tells Gordon to say he killed Dent, so Harvey can be a symbol of hope for his beloved city. Gordon Jr., is Batman okay, Dad? Gordon, yes, son, he is just now the hero Gotham needs, not the one it wants. He is our Dark Knight. Panel 9, Batman, Gordon, and an upside-down and restrained Joker all laugh eating Hostess desserts. Caption, now Gotham has light where there was once only darkness. Gordon, you carry ding-dongs and utility belt, Batman? Batman, always. Joker, I no longer care about seeing the world burn when I have a Twinkie in my mouth. Caption, Have your mom make the right choice and buy Hostess brand treats at your grocery store today. End scene.
I was there. Every panel I saw it. Yeah. We'll do our rankings in a couple weeks with Paprika, but I think just like we're going to talk about next season with X-Men 2, the first movie is a proof of concept for a better sequel.
Yes.
Where like if it wasn't like, I think X-Men 2 is a pretty good superhero film. I do also think Heath Ledger's estimation of it's correct. But there's no way you could have done this film, it seems, without Batman Begins. And I think some of that is just confidence, but also some of it is budget. Some of it is even like just the design, because Nathan Crowley originally, according to the Nolan Variations by Tom Schoen, Nathan Crowley, the designer, originally wanted to do a modernist design for Batman Begins, but Nolan said it looked too bleak. So because you have Batman Begins and you have these layers on it, and it looks a little bit more like a comic book, like some happy medium between a comic book film and reality, and you're treating Batman with reality, you're able to have this film. Whereas if you could, like, while I would have enjoyed this film if it just came out, I think you really need to have that prep beforehand somewhere in the culture to be able to have this film. And so I think he laid his own path for it.
Yeah, I mean, there is also a big element of leveling up and both narrative and scope ambition that Nolan had for this movie that we hadn't seen before. But we've seen a lot since.
I know Jonathan Nolan added the ship scene whenever he was doing a pass at the script or hoping co-write it.
Interesting.
And so that was an addition to what kind of like Goyer and Sir Chris had. So because they already had what he called the Sophie's Choice thing earlier between Harvey Dent and Rachel Dawes, right?
Yeah.
And so originally Chris was like, you can't just keep doing that same thing. And then he says, like, I mean, it shouldn't have really worked, but it did. The movie literally stops. And then it goes, oh, and another thing.
Yes.
Which is an interesting, like, Nolan sees it. I like that the movie stops, but I don't like the, oh, and another thing. In my first watch of it or all my subsequent watches.
You know, I've always, when I first saw it, I loved that scene, and I've loved it almost every viewing since. But I watched both these movies yesterday. It was a long 5 hours. It made me sad this time because this is 2008, and there was a sense of hope that you could hope that we would all kind of agree of not killing a boat full of other people to save ourselves. And I cannot imagine that working in 2024.
Interesting.
And it made me really sad because there's a contingent in society now that wasn't as vocal and would have sat down in 2008, who would have been standing up and running for it to kill the boatload full of prisoners.
I mean, on the ship of not the prisoners, but the other one, yeah, those people seem like even more of an archetype of people that we would see now. Like it seems like it's a film that would come out 14 years, 16 years later.
Mm-hmm. They would have blown up the boat of prisoners.
I'm just glad that Lister's back with Oldman, because I don't know if they'd done a movie since The Fifth Element together.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, Debo from Friday is the Galactic President in The Fifth Element.
Yeah,
he is. Okay. Yeah, and this is peak Oldman in the Batman trilogy. He's pretty fantastic in the. Actually, everybody in this movie is pretty fantastic. What are we saying? Heath Ledger, one of the most iconic performances in film history, and the rest of the cast. This is. I mean, Aaron Eckhart. Has Aaron Eckhart ever been this good?
Yeah, I mean, I like him in Thank You for Smoking. I don't know. There's the moment where he disarms the person in court. The gun, about American, or whatever the dumb fucking line is. That whole sequence seems weird for this film.
Does it?
It doesn't bump too hard, but there's just like a lack of reality behind it that just seemed a little off to me. It's hard to square that with Batman as the detective later, which is this is the only film where he, I guess, a little bit in Rises, but this is I was like cheering whenever I saw Batman actually do detective work in this.
Yeah, it captures all. I feel like after Batman Begins, Nolan did his homework on all these eras of Batman, including the Penthouse era. Who knew that would come back 30, 40 years later?
Wait, he was in Penthouse?
He was in a Penthouse.
That was mainly for... Oh, okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Not the magazine.
He may have written about... Anyway, Penthouse forums.
So I was at the ballet and bought the whole crew, whole entire cast. Yeah,
I think this is Bale at his best as Bruce Wayne, because he's getting a lot of daylight things to do outside of the costume. As Batman, Batman Begins, there's a lot of Bruce Wayne, but that's mostly League of Shadows teaming up with criminals, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, pre-Batman Bruce.
Yeah,
in that one.
Yeah, I had a thought there on people's acting, and I lost it. But I guess it's like at some point Ryan's going to have a conversation with his child about the proper order of watching Star Wars movies.
Yes.
And I'll if you want support during that, I'll be there for you, Ryan. And watching these films with the pincer movement and watching Rises first, it made me appreciate the Dent stuff more in this film, which is odd because Rises wasn't obviously planned to be right. It wasn't setting up Rises whenever they made this film. The whole point of mashing two movies together for Nolan was that there wasn't really a setup for a sequel.
Yeah. That was silly.
And he might have, if there was going to be a sequel, then Ledger might have been part of it as well.
I think, watching it the pincer movement way, there are so many references to things that happen in The Dark Knight. It almost gives them more weight watching it in reverse. Like the Dark Knight is like obviously the middle movie, and it's the one that, if you like either of the other two, I think it's more of the gravitational pull of both of them. One leads into it and the other one comes from it.
Yeah, it's definitely, I guess, the inverse of a human centipede. Like the middle is well the best place. And yeah, I think what happens is, having watched Rises recently, the Dent stuff is justified before you start watching the Dent, before Dent's ever on screen. Before he has that amazing moment in court where he disarms somebody, so that he can seem a little bit more like a superhero. And then, just following the Dent plot line, it seems like it's almost like a three-hander, right? Like if you watch it from the Dent standpoint, it does make sense that Dent might be Batman.
Yeah.
And if you watch it with that naivety, if you're watching it from like the Joker's standpoint, or in my first viewing, I thought maybe Dent would become Batman and take over for the Christian Bale Bruce Wayne character. I think this is a fascinating film that it's not like Batman gets almost as much screen time as Dent as Joker. And then there's that scene, I think it kind of like solidified it for me this last time, is there's a scene where it's before the extradition of the guy who's gone back to Hong Kong to hide out. Gordon and Dent are on the roof talking to each other about like pointing fingers and being in a little bit of a spat, a political argument. And Batman's just kind of standing there waiting for his opportunity to do something. Like he's just kind of in the background. He doesn't do anything in that scene aside from, oh, cool, I'll go get that guy then. Because the movie's bigger than Batman in a way that Rises, I think, is supposed to be, and it doesn't feel like it is.
Yeah, I agree. I think in this one, I think what makes it the most successful is that Dent and the Joker are actively trying to make it their movie, is how it feels. Like it feels like the Dent is the star of his own movie and the Joker is the star of his own movie. And Batman and Dent are going along in their respective films, and then the Joker comes along and like tears holes in the narrative whenever he shows up and is not subject to linear time and has all of these superpowers that ultimately derail the mob plotline entirely. Because for the first 45 minutes, this is Batman is in a movie where he's just trying to finish the mob off, and he's just trying to ignore
and not
the
get
Joker.
rabies.
Yes, and not get rabies. But he wishes the Joker would go away. He doesn't think it's something to take seriously. Until the Joker makes it impossible for the Batman or Harvey Dent or the film to pay attention to anything else but him by halfway through, That's really a neat magic trick.
So here's something that Mooney said in his Christopher Nolan, a critical look at the films, which I think is interesting. And we haven't touched on it yet, which I'm surprised it hasn't come up organically. And that this is the only Nolan film of all the ones that we've covered and will cover that's linear.
Yeah, I remember that being a big deal before it came out. Everybody, or film nerds anyway, those guys, that everybody's like, this is the first linear Christopher. But I mean, if you look at the parallel plot lines that he has here, I don't think it's that far outside of his comfort zone.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things going on in this movie. There's like the first scene with Ramirez and Dent. He just casually asks about her mother, and then it just moves on. It's just like a little thing that's peppered there, and it's done in an offhanded way where it doesn't call too much attention to itself. But there's so many intertangled stories with the mobsters, with the Joker, with Dent, with Batman and the accountant. And then there's just so many things going on at every single minute of this movie. Some of the camera moves and the editing are so smooth the way they are presented, you kind of lose track of how much plot you're being assaulted with almost every few minutes in this movie. Something else is happening.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and I think to something that Jack said last week, now I have seen this movie way too many fucking times, and it's like up there with like Pulp Fiction and Star Wars, A New Hope, with how many times I've seen it. And it doesn't, very few pieces of it work for me anymore. And I honestly think that so much of that is to do with having just watched it too much. But something that Jack mentioned last week, and you're now making reference to, is that the pacing covers up a lot of plot problems that and you can just, and for years I just totally went with this. I was in like the slipstream with this movie, and it went on, and I didn't ever stop to even think about any of that stuff for years.
Ryan, are you going to ruin the movie for us?
I don't think so.
Am I not going to be able to watch this movie again because it's going to have this nagging thought in the back of my head?
No, I don't think it's,
because if so, I just want to warn our listener so that they can skip ahead.
I would be fearful if I had that kind of power, and I don't think this movie is impeachable in that way.
Okay, so you're not putting my top inside the safe, still spinning. I'm good to listen to you.
No,
okay,
I'm not checking for your wedding ring. No. The detective work around the bullet is just so silly. Like,
that's it?
The recreate? No, there's a bunch of stuff.
That's awesome.
There's a bunch of stuff like that just like one thing follows another, but that doesn't mean that one idea follows another necessarily. Yeah, I wasn't trying to start a takedown of the movie. I don't have an itemized list of inconsistencies. I just think there's a general there's stuff going on in the movie that is not altogether coherent.
I think more so than the first or the third movie, this movie, like Ken just said, has a lot of things that he doesn't hang a lantern on it. It's there if you want it, but if you could just vibe with the movie, you don't need it. Like,
Right.
it took me multiple viewings until I heard Gordon say, "Oh, how's your mother doing?" And which is basically the first scene, I think, after the heist.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
It's right there, man.
And it's right there, but you don't need it for the end because, of course, like she says it at the time, so you don't need that to be threaded in. But it's there; it's threaded in. And then also during the fundraiser for Dent's not there because Batman's knocked him out to make him safe. So therefore, the Joker would think that that is Harvey Dent. What
Mhm.
I don't understand watching it this time is why. When did the Joker decide that he needed to get arrested and put inside the prison? And if that happens, how does he know to have Dent and the DA tied up in different places? Was he just going to do that for Gordon? Because he doesn't know Batman's going to be there because he thought Batman was Dent, right?
Did he?
I don't know that we know what the Joker thinks, but that's the kind of, I don't think any of the Joker's just not a rational, like nothing that happens with the Joker is rational. I think that's a huge strength, not a weakness, but I don't think any of his plan is possible to plan or to execute. Like the bazillions of dollars he would need to, and the years to lay the infrastructure just seems wild.
Yeah, that is true. But I mean, it holds together better than. Do you guys know the James Bond movie Skyfall?
Yeah.
Which has a similar element where Javier Bardem's character gets caught, and it turns out he got caught on purpose, and then like a subway car crashes through, and
the subway. Yeah, that is the worst scene of that. The worst.
It is terrible, and it makes no sense that the things Thomas was just talking about. I mean, I kind of give it a pass at this point.
Have we talked about? I thought we had talked about, but maybe we haven't. The that plot line being in so many movies of this time, and how it was like a new script Bible that was going around Hollywood.
I felt that we did. I felt somehow we
Yeah.
brought up Cabin in the Woods and Buffy season 5, the college years, whatever that was. I think it was 5. No, 5 is the demon because she dies, right?
Yeah,
so it would be
season
4.
Yeah. But yeah, this is one of those. This and the Avengers and Skyfall all have the bad guy getting caught as the surprise sneak part of the plan, the twist part. I think it is executed by the Joker light years better than any of those other movies, as much as I like this.
And I sometimes forget, like, why does he need to be locked? Like, I don't even remember that he needs to be locked up, but he only wants to be locked up so he can get the accountant, right? And then the accountant's money. But you don't have. I didn't. If I don't pick up on that while I'm watching it, it doesn't matter because the next scene he's on a tower full of money.
Yeah,
he got his half of the money. Yep,
half,
and then he burns it.
Yeah, he's so good. He's the best.
Well, speaking of half and burns, the thing that still makes no fucking sense to me, and if I think watching with Rises, it was helpful just to ignore it maybe, but the Dent transformation from I'm going to interrogate somebody to I'm going to go around killing people because my fiance was killed.
Yes.
By the Joker.
Yes.
And corruption is wild. I do not buy it.
No,
I can't. It makes no sense to me. I've never been in that position, so I mean, maybe it's just a lack of empathy. I still have both halves of my face.
I don't think. I think it's this movie is so well respected and rightfully so. Same, but I can't describe it as anything else. But it just seems like a fatal flaw of the movie that the Two-Face thing is shoehorned in. I think if the movie ends right after the semi-flips and all of that stuff happens with the Joker, and Two-Face has not been revealed to be, has not woken up. I think if the movie ends right before he wakes up in the hospital, it's like a perfect film.
Or like Joker can still visit him. The rest of that could happen, but he doesn't go kill people.
Yeah, that would be better actually, because like I said, the hospital scene is actually my favorite part of the Joker performance. It would be a shame to lose that.
I guess that's never bugged me. Maybe because it's a a superhero movie and it's about dual identities. That never occurred to me, Thomas, because he almost kills what's his bucket, and then he is clearly full of anger in a couple scenes, and then when he turns because he's in a lot of pain, he's pissed off. He's pissed off at Batman. He's pissed off at everybody.
Yeah, but like,
What
why
good?
would
What good
Rachel
is
be-
what
but
good
why
is
would
the
Rachel
law?
want like him if he's that? I mean, I guess she also kind of likes Bruce Wayne.
She kind
just
of
a
likes
little bit
Bruce
of-
Wayne. She has a type.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it never bothered me until you brought it up. I never even
Really?
considered that.
That-
Yeah, it just seems like that's the
hurt me
turn.
so much the first time I watched it, and the only time
Huh.
it's only not
I
been a sore thumb, like losing my nail, blood underneath it, was this last viewing because watching Rises first.
Okay, well, Ryan's nitpicks didn't bother me, but Thomas, I think you just ruined this movie for me.
Oh, I didn't
Um,
mean to.
I do remember feeling I didn't I never would have said it was a problem up until rewatching this a couple years ago, but in the theater I just remember being exhausted after the truck and all. That was just such an incredible and it's still such an amazing set piece.
It is. It is out of all the Batman movies, probably the set piece.
Okay, I want to read something which I took issue with from the Nolan Variations by Tom Schoen. He compares Nolan to the Tumbler.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Between the image of his chrysalis-like emergence from the smoking chassis of the Tumbler could almost be an image of Nolan freeing himself from the wasteful bulk of his first film, whose action sequences mimic the quickly edited demolition derby of mini summer blockbuster. When a car smashes into another car, you barely flinched. When a truck rams into a cop car here, such as our sense of size and physical mass, you could almost be watching spaceships collide. Such is the quantum leap between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight in terms of cinematography, editing, sound, score, that the mismatch of the titles feels like the start of a new series entirely.
Yeah.
But to compare it to the fucking Rambler, I don't know.
I just got I just imagined the Rambler with the camo before, it gets the Batman black and Christopher Nolan's face being stretched across the front of it. His little blonde hair coming out. Very upsetting. I do, to his end point, I do think and I mean we talked about this when we talked about The Dark Knight Rises. I do think this is like a different movie series than the other two movies. And it's like with how realistic the heist stuff is and the Chicago setting, it just feels very singular compared to the other two movies. Thematically, it's all of a piece, but.
And that's probably why the dent thing in the courtroom, and then whatever the Rambler says, like, we'll self-destruct, or thank you, or have a nice day. It's like the head that is being caught in Total Recall. Whatever it fucking says is stupid, and part of Batman Begins, and not this film.
We haven't even touched on. Well, there's also the accountant who figured out Bruce Wayne is Batman. That plot line. And then the plot line with the bat sonar using everybody's phone to create a virtual map of Gotham City, and the political undertones, which as time goes on, I see them less and less. I maybe saw them in 2008 and they made me a little queasy in 2008. We were still in the war on terror, which I guess we won.
Right after the war on drugs and the war on poverty.
All of which we've destroyed.
Oh, we fucking crushed it.
Yeah.
I always liked I do agree that the political element of it has been separated from that part, although I think the Joker is more politically relevant now. But
I would agree, yeah.
The sonar thing, I always thought this movie was critiquing the war on terror through it by saying like and that's why Batman goes to Morgan Freeman at the end and says like, hey, God, like, can you take care of this for me?
That's how I've come to see it, I guess. Maybe that's how I want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, one of the things the Nolan variation says is that it compares it to Fritz Lang's Dr. Mirabusi series, where the Nazi, and actually, like, I guess the Joker's crazy eyes might come from the hypnotic powers of Mirabusi, but he talks about how the Nazis saw Fritz Lang's films as like proto-fascist films,
Mm-hmm.
and they were being made by somebody who was very much an anti-fascist, who was making his films as a message for anti-fascism, and both sides like clung to it, like Coriolanus, Shakespeare's Coriolanus, and the outbreak of World War One, where both sides are like, "Oh yeah, this is for us."
Yeah.
And there was a battle of ideas because people latched on to, I guess it was a truthful enough representation of the subject that both sides would latch on to it. So you could see like, oh, Batman does save the day by having a surveillance state.
Mm-hmm.
But Batman gives up the day because he has a surveillance state. Batman is a vigilante who deserves to be a vigilante because he's not wearing hockey pads. But he's also a vigilante. He's trying not to be a vigilante.
Mm-hmm.
So I think more so than Rises or Begins, it's something he does throughout. Nolan is troubling the idea of a vigilante.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's a vigilante film.
It is. It's weird because how
Nolan hates it, right? Like some directors just like hate their main character and hate the idea of the thing that they're doing, so it's a takedown of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think maybe Alan Moore likes superheroes, but not like doesn't like what they could become.
Yes, as being inherently fascist.
Yeah.
Which I think this movie out of the three really kind of contends with on a lot of levels.
I mean, there's that moment. There's a moment where Batman looks down the barrel of the IMAX lens and says, "Let's go, Brandon," which was fucking weird.
And then half of Gotham City wearing Joker hats, saying that he should be the mayor.
That is, I mean, and this is what I love about the hospital scene is I think it's such a good critique of the war on terror. What he says about the plan and
oh, really?
Yeah, and Joker's whole monologue about the role of chaos, I think is like, I think it sets the stage for a lot of leftism. I think it sets the stage for MAGA. I think it's very influential culturally. And to me, I think it's a cool fucking speech.
I think Michael Caine's speech about him and his, I guess, missionary friends in Burma.
No. Really? Okay, that's. I had a question. Like, what the fuck does this have to do with the rest of the film? Like, it is a story. It feels like something that was in a first draft as a placeholder for like, give Michael Caine a good story.
Oh yeah, it was great. I love that scene.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Okay. So
and it's become iconic.
But what does it mean? But what does it mean in the context of the film?
He's talking about the Joker. The Joker just wants to see the world burn.
Yeah, because Bruce Wayne is trying to put him in the boxes that he knows, having been Batman and Bruce Wayne and fighting crime. And Michael Caine's trying to tell him, throw away those boxes. This guy doesn't care about them.
He says, like, how did you defeat him, right? He's like, well, we burned down the forest.
Yeah.
Which is not an option for Batman.
But, okay,
well, that's kind of what
what's the story about? Yeah,
that's what the surveillance thing
he is telling Bruce Wayne that this is not who you think he is.
Sure.
There are some things that are outside of his understanding of how criminals and good guys interact.
Okay. But the burning down the forest just makes no sense to me.
No, that is what happens when you try and to draw a comparison to our current political situation. Like,
can we just stay in the film? Like, what does that mean in the film?
We can stay in the film for sure. The Joker, to Ken's point, the Batman is only used to facing organized efforts to overturn a society or organized a crime, people who have a motive and then they have a plan, and the plan is to execute the motive. Okay. The Joker in not only in his character, but literally in the structure of the film. Like, as one scene goes from to another, he does not follow those rules. He interrupts the narrative, and he interrupts the attempt to prosecute the mafia, and it's all for his own, only to play games with Batman. He just wants to have fun. Like, he's not. And Batman almost kills the Joker, which would be a violation of his core principles, and sets up this mega security state to try and defeat the Joker. And the Joker is saying, Michael Caine is saying, like, that's, you lose. That's how you lose, is by doing that.
If burning down the forest or not burning down the forest?
Burning down, it's a Pyrrhic victory. You can defeat the Joker by burning down the forest.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. To save the village.
Well done, Ryan.
Whew. Yes, thank you for asking.
And I think you brought up something that previous the Burton Batman and then the Snyder Batman, that a key part of Batman's whole deal, no matter how cartoony he got or grim and serious in the comic books, was he didn't kill.
Yeah.
And I know the Burton version, he was killing people left and right. And the Snyder version, in your face, killing bad guys. And despite the fact that the tumbler had to have injured or maimed people, at least in the first one, driving over church roofs and shit. He sticks to it. He's not going to do it. He's not going to kill him.
Yeah, and I really like that. How that, I think that's one of the very few good interrogations of that value. I also think the last two, the Endgame movies, also cover this topic, and I think it's fascinating. And Mission Impossible, now Tom Cruise, nobody can die on Tom Cruise's team. The end of the world is the equivalent to Simon Pegg dying in the Mission Impossible series now.
How far of a stretch that is from the first one?
From the first Mission Impossible?
Yeah, where most of his team dies, right?
Yeah.
His entire team dies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Spoiler, thanks.
Spoiler.
But I think a greater statement against the political climate at the time is that in both interrogation scenes, nothing is gained.
Yeah,
Yeah, it just leads them on a merry chase, doesn't he?
Well, not even that. Like the Joker's, like, it wasn't the interrogation that had the Joker give up stuff. The Joker had that plan already. He was just like, what can you do to me? You can't do anything to me. I don't care about anything. When he's getting beat up, and then in the ambulance reversal scene, when he's torturing that schizophrenic dude, Schiff, Batman comes in. He's like, you're not gonna get anything out of him. You can beat him up all you want. You're not going to get good intel.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned at the beginning about in the script he was going to kick the Joker in the head, and then when they filmed it, they didn't.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Oh yeah, what's that about?
It's that idea of powerlessness that Batman realizes that there's no way of physically beating the Joker into compliance.
Mm-hmm.
And so the kick to the head would be for like a cheer from the audience, which Nolan was like, we don't want that. We want him to feel as powerless as he actually is, because he's about to go save the wrong person or the right person. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, could you imagine Rachel was Two-Face? That would be great.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's a good twist.
Yeah, Gyllenhaal is great here, even though she plays another Nolan female character who dies.
She does give it that she does that sing-songy thing with her voice that she has very little to work with, but she does a lot to make Rachel seem like a real person.
She puts more into her character work than maybe the script gave her to work with, but she's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so sad. It reminds her speech that gets cut off is a little bit like Interstellar's speech, Matt Damon's speech. It gets cut off because it just goes silent, right? And it just she's in mid-sentence.
Yeah, she plays that really well. It really seems like she's going to keep talking.
And she probably did, right? And then they just cut it. I mean, that's how I would have tricked the person into doing it, because it's it's a great cut. That, and then like a lot of other moments where let me see, it's the bazooka scene. I'm trying to think of the other one where they just go to silence. like where you could have a big score, but instead, the bazooka scene almost has no music over it, which you would expect it to be like intense music.
Yeah.
And then also, I guess whenever the mayor is giving the speech and then Gordon gets shot, like there's almost no music around that.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, there was a quote from Nolan. I don't have it right in front of me, but they asked him like, "Would you ever do a musical?" And he's like, "All my films are musicals." Basically, was his response.
So I made a note for the next movie. It doesn't have anything to do with the plot, but this is the 12th Nolan movie. He does not have needle drops in his movies that have, popular famous songs. I mean, there's the Trigger song in Inception,
we're
but
gonna talk about how we would end Inception at the end, right?
yes,
Okay.
yes, for sure. But there's nothing. There are so many sequences in both these movies where, I mean, you could imagine a classic rock and roll song or a stupid song written for the movie by Blink 182. I don't know, but none of his movies have that.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have great musical cues with Hans Zimmer, and then I can't remember the name of the person who replaced Zimmer as his go-to. And their music is really integral, and you can tell there's a lot of collaboration. It's not like, here's the movie, Neil Young, just play your electric guitar, which for Dead Man is great. I'm not saying anything bad about Jarmusch's Dead Man, but a whole different working collaborative experience, I guess, with his song people.
I do
his song people.
I do lament that they no longer make songs that are a recap of the film you just watched, and sometimes get it wrong. Like Ninja Turtles does that, the first one. But yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, he doesn't even. I mean, even in Star Trek: First Contact, when we talked about that a couple of seasons back,
Oogie Boogie.
Yeah, there was a big debate on whether or not to use, for whatever reason, 50s songs and 60s songs in it, but to use music that would be recognizable. And it's as you mentioned it. There's nothing, is there? Not even Interstellar, is there?
No, I mean, closest you get is Inception, the peel-off.
Yeah.
But that's something that's in movie. It's not like a needle drop for the score.
Right. It's diegetic and intentional.
Yeah, he doesn't have any Wes Anderson or
Tarantino. Tarantino's great at the needle drops.
Or even editing to the
Scorsese, obviously. Some of Scorsese's best scenes we relate to the songs that are played over them.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of
like Layla and Goodfellas. Come on. That's interesting. There's no needle drops, no soundtracks other than the score. Good for him. Is that it? Are we done talking about The Dark Knight? Let me look at my notes here.
I mean, after this film, Nolan, I guess when they're wrapping up Interstellar and started working on Dark Knight Rises, he and Crowley were in New York scouting locations and stopped into Starbucks for a cup of tea. And as Nolan relates it, somebody came up and asked if I was Christopher Nolan. And when I said yes, they didn't believe me, which is very peculiar. But this is the film that has people recognize who Christopher Nolan is. And I would say maybe Inception, whenever you cast somebody who looks a little bit like you, helps. Do I think that DiCaprio looks like Nolan in that film?
He's definitely a stand-in.
I would say so, yeah. I would say Christopher Nolan could have been his, with training, could have been his stunt double.
Yeah, so that definitely where the Nolan brand Nolan. And maybe at this point in the next few movies is when regular Hollywood started resenting Sir Chris and Dame Emma a little bit, because they did kind of stand outside, or they still do stand outside the normal orthodoxy of producers and studios, and they kind of just run their own show. And he's only gotten more powerful, just like Darth Vader, or no, Obi-Wan, just like Obi-Wan.
Strike
in
me
Star
down.
Wars. Yes, he's gotten more powerful as time goes on because he just sticks to it and he makes movies that people want to see.
Well, now now he's at I think he and I don't think there's anyone who's at his level, but I think there are a few directors who are near his level. They're more powerful than ever because Hollywood is in such disarray. If you can get, I mean, all he has to do is show up and say, "I have a movie," and they start bidding because it's like you don't have to worry about it. It's going to make sense. He's going to bring his team. Like,
I think Cameron's the only person close.
Oh yeah, I don't even.
Here's 400 million. Go make your Blue People movie. It'll make a couple billion. We're good.
Yeah.
Well, that's even different because he has to justify it. You know, he's constantly fighting with them. I don't think any studio fights with Nolan anymore.
Well, I mean, he had some fights that turned him loose to Universal from Warner Brothers.
It was about DVD features and Blu-ray features.
But even that was like, he just told them like, "Fuck you, I don't like you anymore. I'm going to leave." It wasn't like I
don't think he said those words.
Right, no. Oh, dear me. Emma,
oh, dear me.
Will you tell them, "Fuck you"?
I bid you adieu. This is the first movie since Following. We haven't even discussed this, where Nolan is his last movie of really collaborating. And the next movie, Inception, is his first movie since Following, where he has the Soul screenplay. And really, the next two movies, Inception and Dark Knight Rises, and then Interstellar. But I don't know where the thought was going. I'm going to cut this out.
Are you going to edit that out? Because if I talk about it, you can't edit it out. That was fascinating.
Let's start over.
No. That was great.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I was thinking of Inception being his screenwriting credit. I got the two movies confused because I watched them back to back, so I apologize.
You could also apologize for your son, because I thought Jack was going to be on here, but instead he's out hanging with Chaplain Amy. I wanted to let him know that after a screening, a German director by the name of Werner Herzog came up to Bill and Nolan and said, I'm not going to do his accent. Congratulations, this is the most significant film of the whole year. Nolan thought he must be joking. No, replied the German. This film is a film of real substance. It doesn't matter if it's mainstream or not. Werner Herzog liked this film. And so did, for you, Jack, Garrett Davis 2 months ago on Google Reviews. Google Reviews the back. The Dark Knight.
What did he say?
The Dark Knight is the creme de la creme of superhero movies. Apostrophe S. The one that, capital U, measure all other comic book movies, apostrophe S, by script, soiled. I think it means solid. Cinematography, soiled. Acting, solid. Action, super duper soiled. Direction, super mega soiled. Editing, unbelievable. It's truly an honor almost to be in the presence of this much sheer awesomeness. Another aspect that keeps The Dark Knight bumping is that the storyline doesn't come across as preposterous entirely. Batman zooming over skyscrapers of Hong Kong, of course, cinematic thrilling, is way out there, but a lot more transpires here than seems plausible. Of course, the obvious plagues, every Batman movie ever, why don't the baddies just shoot him between his teeth? And there's other great insights. It goes on.
There's a 1-star review by Pine that's gotten 3,700 likes on Letterboxd that gives it 1 star and singles out the Alfred and Myanmar sequence.
Really?
As Alfred being part of British colonialism, and why wouldn't someone want to fight against that, and how he'll never, or she'll, or they'll never not be mad at the Batman films because of that one scene. 1 star, 3,700 likes.
3,700.
I mean, they literally came to a movie about a fascist rich guy vigilante. And that's what they're upset about, the colonialism bit. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's really
but that's the kind of shit you get on Letterboxd. Pan scan. It's the new app. We have gatekeepers. We actually have 3,700 questions that you have to answer before we'll let you in. None of that shit. Pine. You can't name yourself after a tree. You'll have real names on PanScan.
I love PanScan.
I always thought in these trilogy, as we're wrapping up, I guess, the trilogy before we wrap up the Nolan next week, that Alfred had more to do. And I guess because doesn't he stand in as Batman? I know he does occasionally for the Adam West series, and it seems like he even gets something to do in the Schumachers.
Mm-hmm.
But in these films, like he doesn't get to do much, even though he was like special forces. Like I guess I just read Nightfall because because of the Bane, and like I think he gets. Oh wait, he does surgery on him, doesn't he?
Yeah, he sews him up.
He sews him up after the dog bites him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I take it all back. Alfred has something to do.
He's a mentor. He's like the best friend in a romantic comedy.
He's the conscience of the film.
Yeah, but I mean, if he's out like doing colonialism, you would think that he would have something to do in the film more so than like deliver a message or sew me up.
Do you want him to call the wild geese and have like Richard Burton and these old British guys come in and one more mission, boys. You're coming to Gotham. That's not a bad movie pitch.
Yeah, he gets the hooligans together, and yeah, I like it.
All right.
The only other thing that I think you could say about the Dark Knight after all this time is it's really incredible that the Academy Awards have still not recovered from not nominating this for Best Picture, and that they went on this. They've now been in the wilderness for like 15 years trying to figure out what is a good movie, and it's all because of Christopher Nolan. And they finally decided that he made a good movie, at least, you know.
Yeah, that was the beginning of the end of their pincer movement.
Yeah,
and The Dark Knight was the beginning, and La La Land Midnight kerfuffle was definitely the middle.
Yeah.
No, I agree. This changed the way the Oscars dysfunction.
Yeah,
they dysfunctioned just fine before Christopher Nolan, but The Dark Knight really changed things because there's no way it wasn't one of the best 5 movies of 2008.
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah.
And they might have gone a little overboard with Inception, but we'll talk about that next week.
Mm-hmm.
That was part 1 of our 2-part end of the Nolan Void series. We're at the last 2 movies. We just did The Dark Knight, and we're going to do Inception next week.
Yeah.
Shit.
So check us out for that. Wait around. And then I guess after that, we'll stick around with our rankings during Paprika, and maybe have Jack on that one.
We will definitely. Yes.
I'm excited to watch Paprika again. That's a cool movie.
I'm totally excited. Can't wait. Thomas, do you have any subscription drive?
Yeah, I mean, you can follow us on the social medias. Of course, we want to thank Weird AI, aka Ryan, for the theme song. Yeah. We do have a subscription drive. It's been doing well so far. I think we have 3 listeners. And if you find us on social media and can answer the following question, Ryan from Weird AI, who some are calling a duty head and punching him in the dick and running around the corner of the playground, will perform a song for you, mentioning your name.
Yeah.
On an upcoming episode. So answer this question, subscribe, and let us know that you've done both of those things, and you can get a song about you. And just by answering this simple question, who let the dads out? Who? That question again is who let the dads out? So reply to us on social media or at the good, the pod, the ugly at gmail.com and get your name in a song.
Your full name. First, middle, and last.
Yeah, along with social security
Ryan
number.
will rhyme it.
I was going to say.
He will rhyme it. If your last name's Orange, he doesn't care. He'll rhyme it.
No.
Yes.
I'm a fan of the Flaming Lips. I know what to do with Orange.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Wait, what do you do? What do you do with an orange?
What's the rhyme in the song?
Oh, aren't you glad?
He don't use nothing. She don't use nothing that you buy at the store. She likes her hair to be real orange. She uses tangerines.
Beautiful.
If you deliver it like Wayne, then it's like store and orange. So it kind of works. Yeah.
Wow. We have the flaming lips in studio.
Pine would be easier to rhyme.
Yes, we should get Pine from Letterboxd. See if we can move them over
Subscribe,
to
Pine. Come through. Pan scan.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye.
You know what that makes us together? Together, that makes us flash gorgeous.
Flash gorgeous.
I'm not talking at you. I'm talking to you.
Flash gorgeous.
I don't want to hear about you. I want to hear from you.
It's 10-4.
10-4, buddies. Destroy. Kill all hippies.
I don't hate it. I just don't know why you strayed from the formula.
You bastards! You don't know it, Bob. I'm an artist! And I must reflect that in my rhyme.
"50 Ways to Kill a Co-Host"?